Admiral Jake Morrison stood in the massive chamber of Terra Prime, the giant space station floating above Earth's North Pole. His gray uniform was pressed perfectly, but his weathered face showed the stress of 3 decades commanding Earth's small fleet. Around him, holographic images of alien beings flickered and buzzed with translated conversations in dozens of languages. The Galactic Council had gathered for what they thought would be another routine meeting about trade disputes and mining rights. Morrison looked at the assembled delegates and felt a familiar anger burning in his chest. For 300 years, these aliens had treated humanity like children who needed guidance. They flew through human space whenever they wanted, took resources from human colonies, and acted like Earth was just another stop on their trade routes. The 47 different species represented here had grown rich and powerful, while humans struggled to protect their few dozen worlds. The Admiral cleared his throat, and the chamber fell silent. Even the massive insectoid ambassador Thylex from the Corvan Empire stopped clicking his mandibles. The crystalline beings called ethereals shifted their translucent forms to face him directly. Morrison had practiced this speech for months, knowing it would change everything. Representatives of the Galactic Council, Morrison began, his voice carrying clearly through the translation systems. Today, humanity announces the creation of the Terran exclusion zone. Starting in 30 standard days, no non-human vessel may enter within 50 light-years of Earth or any human colony without our explicit permission. The reaction was immediate. Thylex's compound eyes flashed red with anger. Several smaller alien delegates began shouting in their native languages. The ethereals simply phased in and out of visible spectrum, which Morrison had learned was their way of expressing extreme surprise. Morrison continued speaking over the noise. For too long, alien corporations have treated human space as their personal mining ground. Your ships dump waste in our star systems. Your industrial activities threaten our colonies, and your governments ignore our protests. This ends now. Dr. Lisa Carter stepped forward from behind Morrison's position. The xenobiologist had spent her entire career studying alien species and their impact on human settlements. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and her blue eyes were cold with scientific anger. The data is undeniable, Carter said, activating a holographic display that showed star charts and environmental readings. In the past 10 years alone, human colonies have suffered 17 major ecological disasters directly caused by alien industrial activities. The Zephyrian Mining Consortium's antimatter extraction near Proxima Centauri has destabilized our sun's closest neighbor. Our newest colony world faces extinction because aliens wanted cheaper fuel. The display changed to show intercepted communications and financial records. Captain Ryan Beck of Earth's Intelligence Division had spent years gathering this evidence. His dark skin and serious expression made him look older than his 35 years, but his voice was steady as he presented humanity's case. We have proof of deliberate targeting, Beck announced. Alien corporations specifically choose human-controlled systems because they know we lack the military strength to stop them. Board meetings discuss how humans are too weak to enforce their territorial claims. Trade agreements include clauses about extracting maximum profit from human space before we develop better defenses. Chairman Valdris of the Altair Collective, a slug-like being with multiple eye stalks, made a dismissive gesture. Humans exaggerate minor inconveniences, he said through his translator. The galaxy has operated under free trade principles for millennia. No single species can claim exclusive rights to entire star systems. Morrison smiled grimly. We're not claiming rights, Chairman. We're enforcing them. Human space is human territory, and we will defend it as such. Ambassador Thylex stood to his full 8-foot height, his chitinous armor gleaming under the chamber's lights. This is madness, he declared. Humanity controls barely 50 worlds in a galaxy of trillions. Your entire fleet consists of primitive chemical rockets and nuclear weapons. What exactly do you think you can do against the combined might of 47 spacefaring civilizations? The Admiral's smile grew wider. We've had 3 centuries to prepare for this conversation, Ambassador. Humanity has been busy while you've been laughing at our backward technology. Dr. Carter activated another display, this one showing technical specifications that made several alien delegates lean forward with interest. While your species developed exotic weapons and dimensional shields, Humans focused on mastering fundamental forces. We've spent 300 years studying gravitational physics, funded by mining every asteroid and moon in our solar system. Captain, Beck added, our defensive preparations go far beyond what your intelligence services have observed. Earth's orbital platforms are just the visible portion of a network that extends throughout human space. We call it Fortress Sol, but that name doesn't capture the true scope of what we've built. The alien delegates began talking among themselves in urgent whispers. Morrison could see doubt creeping into their expressions, but also anger at humanity's presumption. These beings had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years, and they wouldn't accept challenges from a species they considered barely civilized. President Helen Brooks appeared via hologram from Earth's rebuilt capital. Her silver hair and lined face showed the wisdom of leading humanity through its most dangerous period in history. The 30-day deadline is not negotiable, she stated firmly. We've tried diplomacy, trade agreements, and formal protests through proper channels. Nothing has stopped the systematic exploitation of human space, so now we enforce our borders ourselves. Thylex's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation. You're declaring war on the entire galaxy over mining, disputes and trade routes. This is the action of a species too primitive to understand galactic civilization. Morrison's expression hardened. No, Ambassador. We're declaring independence. For 3 centuries, alien species have treated human space like their personal resource depot. You've ignored our sovereignty, polluted our worlds, and treated us like junior partners in our own star systems. That ends in 30 days. The ethereal collective's representative phased fully into visible spectrum. Its crystalline form pulsing with what humans had learned indicated intense focus. The economic disruption alone would destabilize dozens of trade routes. Major shipping lanes pass through human space. Industrial operations throughout the local spiral arm depend on resources extracted from your systems. Then you should have thought about that before treating us like we didn't matter, Dr. Carter replied. Human lives and human worlds are not acceptable casualties for alien profit margins. Chairman Valdris's eye stalk swiveled to focus on Morrison. And if we refuse? If the galaxy ignores this absurd ultimatum from a backward species with delusions of grandeur? Admiral Morrison's smile disappeared entirely. Then you'll discover exactly how primitive humanity really is. 30 days, representatives. We suggest you use them wisely. The holographic connection terminated, leaving the alien delegates staring at empty space where humanity's representatives had been standing. For the first time in galactic history, humans had drawn a line and dared the universe to cross it. Chairman Valdris slammed his pudgy appendage against the polished table in the emergency session of the Galactic Trade Consortium. The slug-like aliens' multiple eye stalks swiveled to focus on each of the 37 corporate representatives present. The emergency meeting had been called within hours of humanity's absurd declaration, and the mood in the crystalline conference room was equal parts anger and disbelief. The humans have finally lost their primitive minds, Valdris declared, his translator converting his wet, bubbling speech into standard galactic. 300 years of profitable operations in their space, and now they think they can simply order us to leave. The economic impact alone would cost our members trillions of credits. Trade Minister Zephon of the Mining Consortium nodded his scaled head vigorously. My operations near Proxima Centauri alone employ 50,000 workers across 6 species. We've invested decades and massive resources in establishing extraction facilities throughout human space. Their ultimatum would destroy everything we've built. The vote was unanimous and swift. Every single member of the consortium agreed to ignore humanity's deadline completely. As far as the galaxy's most powerful economic alliance was concerned, humans were throwing a temper tantrum that could be safely dismissed. General Marcus Stone sat in his command bunker 3 kilometers beneath the surface of Earth's moon, staring at tactical displays that told a very different story. The gruff military commander had spent 20 years preparing Luna Base for exactly this scenario, and his weathered face showed no surprise at what his sensors were detecting. Admiral Morrison was right, Stone muttered to his aide, Lieutenant Colonel Amy Rodriguez. They're not taking us seriously at all. Rodriguez nodded as she reviewed the latest intelligence reports from monitoring stations throughout human space. The young officer had volunteered for frontier duty specifically to gather data on alien military capabilities, and what she was seeing confirmed their worst fears about galactic arrogance. If anything, alien traffic has increased, Rodriguez reported. Sensor stations report a 40% jump in non-human vessels entering our space over the past week. They're rushing to establish claims before our deadline, assuming we can't actually enforce it. Stone pulled up a tactical overview showing the positions of every known alien vessel within 50 light-years of Earth. The display was crowded with thousands of red icons representing ships from dozens of different species. Mining vessels, cargo haulers, military escorts, and exploration craft filled space that humanity had declared off-limits. "What about military buildups?" Stone asked. Rodriguez highlighted several areas where alien warships were concentrating. "The Corvin battle fleet has positioned over 300 ships just outside our declared boundary. Intelligence suggests they're planning a show of force to demonstrate that humans can't actually control our own space." The displays showed the true scope of the challenge humanity faced. The ethereal collective had moved their reality-bending dreadnoughts to strategic hyperspace junctions, ready to phase between dimensions if humans somehow developed weapons that could threaten their exotic technology. The Altair merchant fleet had assembled its heaviest cargo vessels, protected by escort squadrons that individually outgunned Earth's entire navy. President Helen Brooks addressed the global assembly from the rebuilt White House, her calm voice contrasting sharply with the tension in the packed chamber. Representatives from every human world had gathered either in person or via hologram to witness what might be humanity's last diplomatic effort. "The aliens believe we're bluffing," Brooks stated simply. "Intelligence reports confirm that not a single alien vessel has begun leaving human space. Corporate boards are treating our ultimatum as an empty threat from a species too weak to enforce its own territorial claims." The president paused, looking directly into the cameras that would broadcast her words to every human settlement in the galaxy. "They're about to learn why that assumption is a fatal mistake." Chief Engineer Peter Williams stepped up to the podium, his thick hands still bearing oil stains from his latest work in the hidden construction bays of Ceres Station. The brilliant scientist had spent 15 years developing technologies that alien intelligence services had completely failed to detect. For 3 centuries, while aliens laughed at our primitive rockets and nuclear weapons, humanity has been working on something they never expected, Williams explained. Every species in the galaxy focuses on increasingly exotic technologies: antimatter weapons, dimensional shields, reality manipulation devices. They assume that more complex automatically means more powerful. Williams activated a holographic display showing the hidden network of installations that humanity had constructed throughout the solar system and beyond. Humans took a different approach. We studied the fundamental forces that make the universe work. While aliens built weapons that bend physics, we learned to master physics itself. The assembled representatives stared at technical specifications that seemed impossible. Gravitational field generators capable of creating artificial black holes, stellar manipulation arrays that could turn stars themselves into weapons, space-time distortion networks that made distance irrelevant for targeting purposes. "Our defensive network doesn't rely on exotic matter or dimensional technology," Williams continued. "It's based on gravitational manipulation, something every alien species dismisses as too primitive to be militarily useful. They're about to discover how wrong they are." Senator John Martinez from the Mars colonies raised his hand. "Chief Williams, are you saying we can actually enforce our ultimatum against the entire galaxy?" Williams smiled grimly. "Senator, we can do far more than that. The network we've built doesn't just defend human space. It can project force anywhere within a 100 light-year radius. Every alien vessel currently ignoring our deadline is within range of weapons they don't even know exist." Meanwhile, Admiral Ben Foster monitored the situation from his command ship orbiting the frontier colony of New Austin. The veteran officer had requested assignment to humanity's most vulnerable settlement, specifically because he knew it would be the first target of any alien retaliation. "How many alien ships in our immediate area?" Foster asked his tactical officer. 73 confirmed, sir. Mix of Corvin military escorts and Zephyrian mining vessels. They're not even trying to hide their presence. Long-range sensors detect a massive alien formation building up just past the 50 light-year boundary. Foster nodded grimly. New Austin's 2 million colonists were completely dependent on supply shipments from Earth, and the alien forces surrounding them could cut off all trade routes with minimal effort. Unless humanity's secret weapons actually worked as designed, his colony would be the first to fall. Dr. Susan Mitchell coordinated the final preparations from the Terran Research Institute's secret facility inside Jupiter's moon Europa. The xenobiologist had spent decades studying alien psychology, and her reports had been instrumental in predicting exactly how the galaxy would respond to humanity's ultimatum. "They're acting exactly as we expected," Mitchell reported to the Emergency Command Council. "Alien arrogance prevents them from considering that humans might actually have developed superior technology. They assume our ultimatum is desperation from a weak species, not confidence from a strong one." As the 30-day deadline approached, not a single alien vessel had left human space. If anything, the presence of non-human ships had increased, as various species rushed to establish permanent claims before humanity's bluff was called. Captain Nicole Thompson ran final systems checks on the gravitational weapon arrays hidden throughout the asteroid belt. Her crew had spent years disguising the massive installations as ordinary mining platforms, and alien intelligence services had completely ignored them. "All stations report ready," Thompson announced over the secure communication network that connected every human military installation. "Gravitational field generators are charged and targeted. Stellar manipulation arrays are online. The network is ready for activation on Admiral Morrison's command." The galaxy had made its choice. Alien arrogance and contempt for human capabilities had convinced them that they could ignore humanity's ultimatum with impunity. Thousands of ships from dozens of species remained in human space, their commanders confident that Earth lacked both the will and the ability to enforce its territorial claims. They were about to discover that underestimating humanity was the last mistake they would ever make. Admiral Jake Morrison stood in the command center of Terra Prime, his eyes fixed on the chronometer counting down the final seconds to the 30-day deadline. Around him, officers from every branch of Earth's military monitored displays showing alien vessel positions throughout human space. The atmosphere was tense but determined. Humanity had drawn its line, and now they would enforce it. "Time," Morrison announced as the chronometer reached 0. "Operation Sovereignty is authorized. All stations, you are weapons free." The first target was the Zephyrian mining fleet that had been strip mining asteroids between Mars and Jupiter for the past 6 months. 17 massive industrial ships, each the size of a small city, had ignored repeated human protests as they tore apart rocky bodies that had orbited the sun for billions of years. Their escort ships, sleek Zephyrian destroyers armed with antimatter torpedoes, had been positioned specifically to intimidate any human vessels that might interfere. Commander Nicole Thompson sat in the hidden control room of Olympus Station, disguised as an ordinary asteroid monitoring facility. Her fingers moved across holographic controls that activated gravitational field generators positioned throughout the belt. The weapons humanity had built were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. "Gravitational pulse initiated," Thompson reported calmly. "Target acquisition confirmed." The effect was instantaneous and devastating. Space itself seemed to twist around the Zephyrian fleet as artificial gravity wells formed with surgical precision. The massive mining ships, built to withstand meteor, impacts and radiation storms, found their molecular bonds compressed beyond breaking point. Hull metal designed to last millennia was crushed to neutron star density in microseconds. The escort destroyers tried to flee, their antimatter drives flaring to life as they attempted to escape the gravitational anomaly. But Thompson's weapons treated distance as irrelevant. Gravity wells formed directly around each fleeing ship, stretching their exotic matter hulls like rubber until atomic forces could no longer hold them together. In less than 30 seconds, the entire Zephyrian operation had been reduced to expanding clouds of compressed matter. No explosion, no energy discharge that alien sensors could analyze. The ships had simply been crushed out of existence by forces that made nuclear weapons look like primitive firecrackers. The news spread across galactic communication networks at faster than light speeds. Impossible reports flooded alien command centers. The Zephyrian Mining Consortium's most heavily defended operation had been destroyed by weapons that operated beyond current understanding of physics. Admiral Ben Foster received the reports from his command ship orbiting New Austin, where Corvin battlecruisers had been positioning themselves for a retaliatory strike against humanity's most vulnerable colony. The insectoid aliens had assembled over 200 ships, confident that overwhelming force would demonstrate the futility of human resistance. Corvin fleet is moving to attack position, Foster's tactical officer reported. Long-range sensors detect weapon charging. They're preparing to bombard the colony. Foster nodded grimly. Activate the stellar array. Show them what humans consider an appropriate response to threats against our civilians. Dr. Robert Chen monitored the process from Mercury Base, where humanity had hidden their most powerful weapon inside the solar monitoring station that aliens had ignored for decades. The Stellar Manipulation Array was humanity's masterpiece, AIE network of gravitational field generators that could control the output of stars themselves. Stellar compression initiated, Chen reported over the secure channel. Solar output increasing by 400% in a controlled flare directed at the Corvin formation. New Austin's sun, a young star similar to Sol, suddenly blazed with increased intensity, but this was not random stellar activity. Humanity's gravitational manipulation technology focused the star's enhanced output into a narrow beam aimed directly at the approaching Corvin fleet. The alien ships detected the energy surge and raised their defensive shields, confident that their exotic matter barriers could deflect any stellar radiation. They had defended against solar flares from unstable stars before. What they hadn't encountered was a star weaponized by gravitational technology that made their defensive systems irrelevant. The controlled solar flare struck the Corvin formation with the concentrated power of a stellar explosion. Ships that had survived battles across the galaxy for centuries were vaporized instantly. Their dimensional shields and antimatter armor provided no protection against temperatures that existed only in the cores of stars. Meanwhile, gravitational deflection fields protected every human installation in the system. The same technology that weaponized the star also created shields that redirected the deadly radiation away from New Austin's cities and orbital platforms. In minutes, the most powerful Corvin battle fleet in the local sector had been reduced to glowing plasma. The Insectoid Empire's military commanders watched in horror as their most advanced warships were destroyed by a primitive star that humans had somehow turned into the galaxy's most devastating weapon. The ethereal collective attempted to respond with their own exotic capabilities. The crystalline beings were masters of dimensional manipulation, able to phase their ships between different planes of reality to avoid conventional weapons. Their dreadnoughts began shifting into subspace, confident that no physical force could affect them while they existed between dimensions. Major Kevin Davis monitored their movement from the Pluto observation post, where humanity had installed dimensional anchor technology that alien intelligence services had never detected. The young officer had volunteered for duty in the outer solar system, specifically to operate weapons that most humans didn't know existed. Ethereal fleet attempting dimensional phase shift, Davis reported. Activating dimensional anchors. The effect was immediate and brutal. The ethereal ships found themselves trapped between dimensions as humanity's gravitational technology created space-time distortions that prevented dimensional travel. Ships designed to exist in multiple realities simultaneously were torn apart by gravitational shear forces operating across different planes of existence. The crystalline beings' mastery of exotic physics became their downfall. Their ships were too fragmented across dimensions to maintain structural integrity when gravity itself began operating according to human rather than alien rules. The most advanced vessels in their fleet crumbled like glass sculptures hit by hammers made of twisted spacetime. Dr. Susan Mitchell coordinated the global response from the Terran Research Institute, her decades of studying alien psychology, finally, paying off as she predicted exactly how each species would react to humanity's demonstrations of power. The Altair Collective is pulling back their merchant fleets, she reported to the Emergency Command Council. Corvin military forces are requesting immediate ceasefire negotiations. The Ethereal Collective has withdrawn all ships to minimum safe distance from human space. But not every alien species was ready to accept the new reality. The Draconian Empire, proud reptilian warriors who had conquered dozens of star systems through military might, assembled their own response fleet. They believed that human weapons, however powerful, could be overwhelmed by sheer numbers. Colonel Steve Anderson observed their approach from the hidden base on Europa, where humanity had constructed their most sophisticated gravitational weapon systems. The veteran officer had spent his entire career preparing for exactly this type of massive alien assault. Draconian formation includes over 500 ships, Anderson reported. Multiple dreadnoughts, carrier groups, and support vessels. They're positioning for a coordinated attack on Luna Base and Earth orbital installations. Admiral Morrison's response was swift and decisive. Activate the Sol Singularity Generator. Show them what happens when you threaten the human homeworld. The weapon hidden within Earth's sun was humanity's ultimate deterrent. Gravitational field generators positioned throughout Sol's core created a controlled black hole that lasted for exactly 37 seconds. The gravitational pulse propagated outward at light speed, creating a wavefront that destabilized hyperspace across 100 light-year radius. The Draconian fleet found their faster-than-light drives failing, as the fundamental structure of spacetime became unreliable. Ships designed to travel between stars crashed back into normal space, as the laws of physics themselves rebelled against alien technology. Navigation systems went haywire as gravitational sensors registered readings that should have been impossible. Captain Michelle Turner monitored the effect from the outer colonies, where human settlements watched in amazement as their defensive systems remained completely unaffected by the gravitational chaos surrounding them. Humanity's technology was immune to its own weapons because it operated according to different physical principles than alien science. The Draconian Armada, the largest military formation in their empire's history, found themselves trapped in normal space with disabled drives and failing systems. They had brought overwhelming force to destroy humanity, only to discover that humans could disable their entire fleet without firing a single conventional weapon. The battle was over in minutes. The greatest armada ever assembled to attack Earth became a helpless collection of stranded ships. The crystal spires of Zethros Prime, capital of the Corvan Empire, had stood for over 1,000 years as symbols of insectoid military might. Now those same towers shook as emergency sirens wailed through the corridors where the High Command struggled to comprehend reports that should have been impossible. General Thyron, supreme military commander of the Corvan forces, stared at tactical displays showing the complete destruction of Battle Fleet Terminus. Over 200 ships, including their most advanced dreadnoughts, had been vaporized by weapons that operated beyond current understanding of physics. The chitinous general's compound eyes reflected the glow of holographic casualty reports that climbed higher every few minutes. How did primitive humans destroy an entire battle fleet? Thyron demanded, his translator struggling to convert the clicking and buzzing of his agitated speech. Our intelligence reports indicated they possessed only chemical rockets and nuclear weapons. Nothing in their technology should have been capable of this level of destruction. Military Intelligence Director Zephax's antennae twitched nervously as she reviewed the sensor data from the failed attack on New Austin. The energy readings are unlike anything in our databases, General. The human colony's star increased output by 400% in a controlled manner that targeted our ships specifically while leaving human installations completely unaffected. They somehow weaponized stellar physics itself. Across the galaxy, similar emergency sessions were taking place as alien civilizations grappled with the reality that humanity had become the most dangerous military power in known space. The Ethereal Collective, masters of dimensional manipulation for over 2 million years, found their council chambers filled with the harmonic frequencies that indicated extreme distress. The crystalline beings had always existed partially in multiple dimensions, a capability that made them virtually immune to conventional weapons. Their ships could phase between realities at will, avoiding any physical attack by simply stepping outside normal spacetime. No enemy had ever found a way to threaten them while they remained in dimensional flux. Until now, ethereal prime consciousness. Feltar pulsed with colors that had no equivalent in species limited to 3-dimensional existence. The human weapons operate across dimensional boundaries, the being communicated through harmonic resonances that penetrated subspace itself. Our fleet was anchored to normal reality by gravitational fields that prevented phase shifting. They have developed technology that treats dimensional travel as irrelevant. Meanwhile, Colonel Steve Anderson coordinated reconnaissance missions from Europa Base, monitoring the massive alien fleet buildup occurring just outside the 50 light-year exclusion zone. His deep space sensors detected over 10,000 ships, from 30 different species representing the largest military alliance in galactic history. They're putting aside centuries of territorial disputes and trade conflicts, Anderson reported to Admiral Morrison during the daily strategic briefing. Species that have been at war with each other for millennia are now working together against us. Fear of human gravitational weapons has unified enemies that diplomacy could never bring to the same table. The alien alliance included traditional adversaries who had never cooperated before. Corvin insectoids worked alongside draconian reptilians despite their species' fundamental biological incompatibilities. The profit-driven Altair Collective had allied with the honor-obsessed warrior clans of Rigel, setting aside trade disputes that had lasted for centuries. Admiral Daniel Kim reviewed intelligence reports from monitoring stations throughout human-tugging space, his experienced eyes recognizing the tactical preparations for a coordinated assault. They're planning something big, he told the emergency session of Earth's military leadership. This isn't just retaliation for the ships we destroyed. They're organizing for total war. The attack began with the ethereal collective's attempt to bypass human defenses entirely. The crystalline beings had developed a new technique, folding space-time itself to create hyperspace corridors that should have allowed rapid deployment of alien forces directly into Earth's solar system. Commander Jennifer Walsh detected the dimensional intrusion from her position at the Neptune sensor array, where humanity's most sophisticated detection equipment monitored space-time for exactly this type of exotic attack. Massive spatial distortion detected, she reported calmly. The ethereals are trying to create a direct hyperspace route past our defensive perimeter. Dr. Robert Chen responded from Mercury Base, where the solar monitoring station concealed humanity's most powerful weapon system. Activating Sol Singularity Generator at maximum power, he announced. If they want to play with space-time, let's show them what happens when humans control fundamental physics. The sun itself became humanity's weapon of last resort. Gravitational field generators hidden within Sol's core created a controlled black hole that existed for exactly 90 seconds, generating a gravitational pulse that propagated outward at light speed. The wavefront carried enough distorted spacetime to destabilize hyperspace across a region spanning hundreds of light years. The effect was immediate and catastrophic for the alien alliance. Ships designed to travel faster than light found their drive systems failing as the fundamental structure of spacetime became unreliable. Hyperspace corridors collapsed without warning, trapping vessels between dimensions where they were torn apart by gravitational shear forces. Navigation computers throughout the alien fleet began displaying impossible readings as gravity itself seemed to operate according to new rules. The ethereal collective's carefully constructed dimensional pathways crumbled like houses built on shifting sand, while Corvin battlecruisers found themselves unable to calculate jump coordinates to anywhere within human space. Captain Michelle Turner monitored the chaos from her command ship, defending the outer colonies, watching as the largest military armada in galactic history became a collection of stranded vessels with disabled faster-than-light capabilities. Human installations report no effect from the gravitational pulse, she announced. Our technology remains fully functional, while alien systems are experiencing complete failure. The reason was simple but devastating. Humanity's gravitational weapons were designed to disrupt the exotic physics that alien technology depended upon while leaving human systems, based on more fundamental physical principles, completely unaffected. Alien ships relied on antimatter drives, dimensional manipulation, and reality-bending technologies that became useless when gravity itself was weaponized against them. Dr. Alan Foster, monitoring the battle from the Terran Research Institute, provided real-time analysis of why human weapons were so effective against alien technology. Every major spacefaring species has focused on increasingly exotic solutions to military problems, he explained to the Emergency Command Council. They build weapons that bend physics rather than mastering physics itself. The tactical reports painted a picture of complete alien helplessness. Corvin antimatter weapons required dimensional manipulation to maintain containment fields, but human gravitational pulses destabilized the exotic matter interactions that made such weapons possible. Ethereal phase-shifting technology depended on precise control of space-time geometry, which became impossible when humans could alter gravitational fields at will. Even the Draconian Empire's supposedly primitive kinetic weapons failed when gravitational manipulation made their targeting systems useless. Ships found themselves unable to calculate ballistic trajectories when gravity stopped behaving according to predictable patterns. The Alien Alliance's carefully planned assault dissolved into panicked retreat as species after species discovered that their most advanced military technology was useless against humanity's gravitational weapons. Battle fleets that had conquered star systems across the galaxy found themselves as helpless as wooden sailing ships trying to fight nuclear submarines. General Marcus Stone observed the retreat from Luna Base, his tactical displays showing alien formations scattering in all directions as they attempted to escape the range of human weapons. "They're falling back to minimum safe distance," he reported. Long-range sensors indicate complete withdrawal of hostile forces from the exclusion zone boundary. But the most significant result wasn't military. Dr. Susan Mitchell's psychological analysis of alien communications revealed something that changed the entire balance of power in the galaxy. Fear was spreading through alien civilizations like a virus, carrying with it the realization that humanity represented a threat beyond anything they had previously encountered. "The psychological impact is devastating," Mitchell reported. Alien species have spent millennia believing that technological sophistication equals military superiority. They assumed that more exotic automatically meant more powerful. Humanity has shattered that assumption completely. Trade networks that had operated for thousands of years began shutting down as alien corporations realized that human space contained the only reliable hyperspace routes in the local galactic sector. The gravitational pulse had left permanent distortions in space-time that made faster-than-light travel dangerous or impossible in vast regions surrounding human territory. 6 months after the failed alien assault on human space, the Galactic Council convened for the first time since humanity's devastating demonstration of military superiority. The meeting location had changed from Terra Prime to a neutral station, in empty space far from any star system, because alien delegates were too frightened to enter human territory without explicit guarantees of safe passage. Ambassador Jake Morrison arrived not as a supplicant seeking acceptance from superior civilizations, but as the representative of the galaxy's new dominant power. His shuttle was escorted by a small fleet of human vessels whose gravitational weapon systems remained hidden, but whose mere presence was enough to make alien security forces nervous. The council chamber itself had been modified to accommodate species that could no longer rely on their exotic technologies. Ethereal delegates remained locked in normal dimensional space, unable to phase shift while human gravitational field generators maintained subtle space-time distortions throughout. The station, Corvin military escorts had been forced to leave their antimatter weapons at the system boundary because human sensors could detect and disable such devices instantly. Morrison took his place at the head of the council table, a position that had been reserved for rotating alien leadership for over 3,000 years. The symbolism was obvious to everyone present. Humanity now set the agenda for galactic civilization. "Representatives," Morrison began, his voice carrying easily through translation systems that alien species had designed but now operated under human oversight. "We gather today to establish the new framework for interstellar relations. The old system, where alien species treated human space as their personal resource depot, has ended permanently. Ambassador Thylex of the Corvin Empire, once an arrogant representative of galactic military might, now spoke with the careful deference of a defeated enemy seeking mercy. Humanity has demonstrated superior military capabilities," the insectoid admitted, his translator converting nervous clicking into standard galactic. The Corvan Empire formally requests terms for peaceful coexistence. The transformation was complete. Species that had dismissed human territorial claims as the complaints of primitives now competed to offer tribute and cooperation in exchange for access to human-controlled space. The economic reality had become undeniable. Interstellar commerce was impossible without human permission. Admiral Daniel Kim coordinated the establishment of humanity's new galactic protectorates from his headquarters on Luna, where the expanded Terran Navy oversaw enforcement of the new order. His fleet had grown from a few dozen ships to over 1,000 vessels, not through conquest but through voluntary submission of alien species seeking protection. The Altair Collective has formally requested admission to the Terran Protectorate, Kim reported during the daily briefing with Earth's leadership. They're offering exclusive mining rights in their home system in exchange for protection from draconian expansion. The irony is remarkable. They're begging us to defend them from the same types of territorial disputes they use to resolve by ignoring human sovereignty. The economic transformation had been swift and total. Captain Laura Brooks directed trade, operations from the massive expansion of Luna City, where alien corporations established offices specifically to negotiate for access to human-controlled hyperspace routes. The gravitational distortions created by humanity's weapons had left vast regions of space impassable to conventional faster-than-light travel. Daily trade volume through human space has increased by 800%, Brooks reported to President Helen Brooks during the weekly economic briefing. Alien governments are paying premium fees for navigation permits, and corporate entities are offering technology transfers that were classified military secrets 6 months ago. The hyperspace corridors that connected major alien civilizations all pass through or near human territory, giving Earth absolute control over the economic lifelines that sustained galactic civilization. Species that had operated independent trade networks for millennia now found themselves completely dependent on human goodwill for basic commerce. Dr. Alan Foster revealed the scientific principles that had made humanity's victory possible during a presentation to the expanded Terran Research Institute. The brilliant physicist had spent decades studying the fundamental forces that alien science had dismissed as too primitive for military applications. Consciousness itself affects reality at the quantum level, Foster explained to an audience of human scientists and carefully selected alien researchers. Every species in the galaxy developed technology based on manipulating exotic phenomena, antimatter, dimensional phase shifting, reality alteration, but they ignored the most basic truth about the universe. Foster activated holographic displays, showing the mathematical relationships between conscious observation and physical law. Human determination, creativity, and refusal to accept limitations allows us to manipulate physical constants that alien logic insists should be immutable. We don't bend physics like they do. We rewrite physics entirely by applying focused consciousness to quantum interactions. The implications were staggering. Humanity's gravitational weapons were just the beginning of capabilities that operated according to principles no other species had discovered. Human consciousness could override alien reality manipulation technologies simply through focused will applied to quantum mechanical processes. The Ethereal Collective, former masters of dimensional manipulation, discovered this truth during their failed attempt to phase shift around human defenses. Their reality-altering abilities, refined over millions of years of evolution, became useless when confronted by human minds that refused to accept exotic physics as superior to fundamental forces. Commander Rachel Turner established the Galactic Peace Enforcement Division from her headquarters on Ceres, where humanity's monitoring network could observe military activities throughout known space. The gravitational sensor arrays that had once been hidden defensive weapons now served as an early warning system that made aggressive buildups impossible to conceal. Intelligence indicates the Draconian Empire is attempting to develop countermeasures to human gravitational weapons, Turner reported during the security briefing. Long-range sensors detect experimental facilities in their outer territories, but their research is based on flawed assumptions about how our technology operates. The alien attempts to reverse-engineer human capabilities were doomed to failure because they approach the problem from within their existing technological framework. Species that had spent millennia developing exotic weapons couldn't comprehend that humanity's advantage came from mastering basics rather than pursuing complexity. Dr. Susan Mitchell coordinated diplomatic outreach from the Terran embassy on New Geneva, where representatives from over 100 alien species sought audiences with human officials. The xenobiologist's decades of studying alien psychology had become invaluable for managing relationships with civilizations that now viewed humanity with mixture of fear and desperate need. The psychological transformation is unprecedented in galactic history, Mitchell explained to the diplomatic corps. Species that considered themselves superior to humanity for thousands of years now structure their entire foreign policy around gaining human approval. The shift from contempt to dependency has created opportunities for peaceful cooperation that never existed before. President Helen Brooks addressed the Global Assembly from the rebuilt White House. Her words broadcast to every human settlement and transmitted throughout the galaxy for alien governments to analyze. Humanity offers peace, protection, and prosperity to all species willing to accept the new order. We seek cooperation, not conquest. But the alternative to voluntary partnership is isolation in star systems cut off from galactic civilization. The choice facing alien species was simple but stark. Accept human leadership and benefit from protection, trade opportunities, and technological cooperation, or face quarantine in star systems surrounded by gravitational barriers that made interstellar travel impossible. Most chose cooperation. The Corvan Empire, which had never surrendered to any enemy in its 1,000-year history, formally dissolved its military and requested integration into the Terran Protectorate. The ethereal collective abandoned their claims to dimensional superiority and offered to share their knowledge of exotic physics in exchange for human protection. Even the proud Draconian Empire, whose warrior culture had conquered dozens of star systems through military might, eventually acknowledged human supremacy. Their ambassador arrived at New Geneva with formal surrender documents and requests for incorporation into humanity's growing interstellar federation. Admiral Morrison stood in the observation deck of Terra Prime, watching as ships from hundreds of different species queued for permission to enter human space. The same aliens who had once dismissed humanity as insignificant now depended entirely on human goodwill for survival and prosperity. The transformation was visible everywhere. Alien corporations redesigned their operations to comply with human, environmental standards. Military fleets that had once ignored human territorial claims now requested permission before entering systems that had been considered free access zones for millennia.